Hello. Hi, everyone. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Claudiu Bucur. This is CityClips. We are live. We're actually live on Christmas Eve of all days. Thank you so much for hopping on a busy holiday schedule. And how appropriate for Tech Tuesdays that you are on, because we're going to highlight Piersica. And for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to go ahead and describe Piersica a little bit to get the gist of it. So Piersica is a technology company developing groundbreaking solid-state lithium-based batteries to revolutionize energy storage. By creating new materials and leveraging cutting-edge technologies, Piersica aims to produce high-performance batteries with higher voltage, greater storage capacity, and faster charging capabilities for a wide range of current and future applications. The company's innovative approach will enable unprecedented electric vehicle performance, including more extended range, rapid charging, and exceptional safety. Piersica is poised to become a leading supplier in the battery market, aiding the world's critical shift away from traditional power sources toward a more sustainable future. So thank you so much, Dr. Bucur, for joining me today.
Thank you. It sounds so much better when you read it. It's amazing.
I know. I wasn't going to memorize that. And so, I know in our prep for this interview, we talked about some of your background. For those of you who also don't know, Dr. Bucur actually went to FSU, both undergrad, got his PhD as well. So FSU alumni here. And then you also got a postdoc.
Yeah, but not at FSU. I did
Okay.
a postdoc at an USDA lab in Peoria. So a government lab.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then since then, you've had an extensive journey, about at least 15, 16 years, right, in the battery industry, worked for big companies like Toyota and large OEMs. And people will be like, what's an OEM? So what was it again? The acronym for that is?
Oh, I forgot.
Original equipment
manufacturer. So
right. Yes.
These are the guys that make the cars and they sell them to the public. And the suppliers sell the components to them. So the supplier is more like B2B and the OEM is B2C.
Yes, absolutely. And so a little bit about how I met you actually was through Tech Grants. And you were a member of the Idea Lab at the time, which is at Innovation Park. And to give everyone an idea, you started your company, you started Piersica in 2020, right? So what you kind of already wanted, it was in the back of your head, like at some point you wanted to have a startup.
Yeah. I tried it was my plan. I wanted to do it. But in this space, which is the hard tech space, right? This is a very technically driven space, and it's chemistry, it's not engineering, so it's even more difficult in that sense. You don't really know left from right until you've got 10 to 20 years of work experience on top of your PhD. So you're 40, and you realize you're just starting to understand things. So you can't really do a business like this when you're 20, because you don't know absolutely anything. But when you're 40,
right.
So the challenge is how you do it, balance of the family and the income and all of that, and do this at the same time. And basically, you've got to give up the industry salary for this shot in the dark, and you've got to carry that on your back for a few years until you start to raise rounds. So that's the challenge.
Right. Yeah, that was a big risk. And of all times too, it was during March 2020 when COVID hit, right? when the company formed. But so kind of tell me a little bit too of what that experience was like. Everything else was shut down. Right. So you realized I need to go to Florida.
Yeah, it was shut down. And I had like two areas. It was the Ann Arbor area or the Tallahassee area, where it was sort of similar locations. You had several schools. You have some industry, more so in Ann Arbor. But Ann Arbor was shut down. And the weather in Florida is so much nicer. And so Tallahassee was a no-brainer for that. I mean, it was open. You could go into labs, and we made a really good decision. Not to mention that a bunch of these companies were already in the they had started this migration from the west to the east. Um, and Tallahassee is not really on the map yet. These companies are moving to South Florida, but these are not um, technical. What I mean by technical is hard technology companies.
Right.
If when these type of hard technology companies, and there's actually some that have moved to Tallahassee already, besides us, they would come to places like Tallahassee. Tallahassee is perfectly suited for that.
Yeah, it's really exciting because when I was in San Francisco, I was there in the 90s and everything, kind of oblivious to what was all going on. Now I know what I know, and being in Tallahassee, I feel like there's going to be a lot of exciting things the next 5-10 years happening here in the North Florida area. But one thing that most people don't even know, living here for 20 years, they don't realize that the largest mag lab is here in Tallahassee. And this is the largest and most powerful mag lab in the world.
Yeah, and in addition to this, there's a lot of infrastructure here around Department of Defense and space. So Florida has a lot of space industry. So there's a lot of deep tech here that infrastructure that is like virgin, unexplored. So if you look into the future, you've got to come to this area of Florida, definitely.
Yeah, and then the other thing too that seems to be like untapped is like you've got UF, you got FSU, really high quality colleges, really great talent. I remember you mentioned that in your pitch during the tech grants that you had. It's great talent here too at FSU. So one of the things I asked you before is like, did you realize you were going to get into the battery technology space, or is just kind of like you discovered some things when you were working at one of those big companies?
No, actually, I did not study battery during my academic training. Um, but so for my academic training, I studied polymers and I studied corrosion science, these two fields. And when I got my first job, it was for Toyota. They had a corrosion issue inside of a battery. So the electrolyte was corroding a current collector or something like generic like that. So that is how I got the job. And basically, I have learned the ins and outs of battery science on the job in the industry, not in a university.
I have your website pulled up, and feel free to also talk about a little bit more about your experience of all of that in the industry. So what made you realize that you came up with a solution that was cleaner, safer? Was that along the way in the last 3 years, or like you kind of stumbled on it, throughout your career, that there needed to be a better battery?
So, like I said, it takes you a very long time to learn. Like you do not, besides the sort of academic training, then comes on the job training, which also takes 10 plus years. And before that, you do not know where the pain points are. You just don't understand what's important, because everybody says what they do is important. But what is really important? You cannot make this type of decision after you've been around for a while. And then I was seeing the start, like all our competitors that are currently our competitors, the startups that have been around for 15 years. I basically, as I was maturing on the OEM side, these companies were just starting back then. So I followed them, and I started to form my opinions about whether what they're doing makes sense or it doesn't. And I decided that I can really disrupt the space. And we put together this company. And at this company, basically, we said, okay, what does the industry want from battery in 30 years? 30 years from now. What type of battery does it want? And we decided that what it wants is a high energy density battery. This is the most important parameter. This means what does that mean? It means it's a small battery with a lot of energy. So small, light, and it stores a lot of energy. That's what that means. So this is the in the company's vision, this is the most important parameter. And this is based on history. So if you look at the commercial history of lithium ion, so before lithium ion started in 1991, before that you had nickel metal hydride, which is still sold nowadays, very niche, those rechargeable AA's, AAA's. And before that, all you had was lead acid. So these are the only three battery chemistries. Lead acid has virtually remained unchanged for 250 years. And then nickel metal hydride came along in the 60s, 70s, and it basically doubled the energy density of lead acid. And then lithium ion came in the early 90s and provided like a 50% increase in energy density. And so energy density is the most important thing for adoption of a new battery. And we realized our competitors are not doing this. They're not going gung-ho on energy density. They're going gung-ho on safety, on charge rate, on cost, on a bunch of other parameters, which the market, in our estimation, didn't care for when they adopt a new battery technology. The thing that moves the needle is energy density. So that was sort of the key factor that at this company, we decided to focus on that.
So here on your website, it's showing, it's pretty much showing the different types of discoveries you guys have done?
Yeah,
this like the material? Yeah, go ahead.
These are called cell components. So you've got an anode on the left and a separator in the middle and a cathode on the right on this page. So this is what is inside each battery: an anode, a separator, and a cathode. And basically, we had to come up with a way to decrease the weight of these materials. That's what energy density means, lightweight. And if you start with that goal in mind, like where does the industry want to be in 30 years in the future? And those roadmaps exist, and they're pretty much the same across the players. So they all pretty much have the same targets. So if you know that how can you get that done now? Okay. And the materials that the competitors use are just not cutting the mustard here. They're heavier. They are not developed. They are not selected with the target of high energy density. They're selected with other targets in mind, but not energy density. So these decisions became very easy for us once we had this clear parameter of energy density.
Wow, that's great. And I can even show your milestones. You've already made a lot of, I guess you could say, successful milestones. Like you said, in the first year and a half, you had to do some fundraising. There was a big risk in that, I'm sure. But you've found partners, investors that was willing to invest in your research and just the technology. It sounds like you've done a great job convincing people that this is going to work.
Yeah, we've been raising money very well so far. And what's good with us is almost for every money that an investor puts in our company, we match that with money that we want in contracts or grants with the government, primarily with the DoD and the National Science Foundation. So it's about 50-50 or 60-40, something like that, of a split. And we also won grants with private corporations as well, Shell Corporation. And they're all listed here. So we won a lot of grants, and we continue to spend a lot of time and effort on this. But we also raise money from investors. So it's about a 50-50 split so far.
That's awesome. And now 3.5 years into it, what would you say to somebody who is considering, especially coming from the innovation world, because that's a different kind of startup, like hard tech, high tech, high scale innovation is a big risk. You know, with software, it's not, people, or even with AI technology, there's some risk in that, but it's not going to cost a lot up front versus like everything related to biochem and hard tech and energy and things like that. What
It's
kind of
not
advice
like-
would you give someone?
I don't think it's quite like that for AI. In my understanding, the way AI works right now is, in a sense, is pretty much the technology, the math behind it is very well understood, and it's just a matter of who has the bigger clusters. So it's a mass type of thing. It's not like there is, as far as my limited understanding goes, there is no new math behind Grok versus OpenAI. It's has to do with how you train it. So this is like the clusters behind. So here it's a matter like who has more money to throw at it. So I don't think you can do much in AI anymore. It's past the point of ideas. The ideas have been mined. Now it's in the growth phase.
Right.
But in our space, in this battery space, it's quite different. Like I said, these batteries stick around for hundreds of years, and it takes 30 to 50 years to double the energy density. So if you can provide, there's still there. This is up for the taking to be disrupted, because you are not at the end of what the periodic table can offer you. You can go further, and so yeah. So basically, you can make a lot of impact in the space with very little money.
Really interesting. But it's still a high risk for you, though, right? Like you were saying, there when you're younger, you can do a lot, you can have time, and you can make do and take care of yourself. But you've got a family, like what we were talking about earlier. There's definitely personal challenges to it.
Yeah, the mechanism to actually getting it done requires some planning. So it's not easy. So you can't start too early because you're completely unprepared and you don't know what to do. And by the time you become prepared, you also get older. So then you have family. So it's difficult to carry the load. Basically, stepping aside from a nice salary to to try to spin a unicorn, and so you need to plan. So you need to think, what do I need to do to be able to afford that I will not get a paycheck for a few years?
Yeah.
And keep going. So if you find the solution to that question, then I think you are very well positioned, because in this space, actually age helps you. So me at 45 versus me at 25 is like day and night in this space. Like I'm like Superman to myself. Like my 25-year-old would stand no chance. And I work with guys who are 65, and I'm thinking, you guys are like three people in one. So in this type of work, when you get older, actually you get better. So yeah.
Would you say, I mean, it looks like, let me just share also your team, you have a great team. That's the other thing where investors take you seriously, is they look at the team. And you've got great advisors. It looks like you've got, and I know you have some lab techs as well. So yeah, you've got a very talented, smart team.
Yeah, basically we have 7 people on staff now, full time. We have 4 scientists or engineers who work in the labs, who are not listed here. And so that's our team so far. So that's another advantage, I think, of coming from the industry rather than jumping directly at this from the academia, which is you learn how to run very lean. The budgets for doing this type of work in industrial research are very small, and the turnarounds are very fast. Basically, they like to crash and burn these projects very often. So you've got 6 months, a year tops to show something, or you don't get the chance to do it again. There's other people waiting in line, and the budgets are small. And By contrast, these startups that I have been following, and basically this is how I decided, oh, I can clean house if I get into this game. They work on very high budgets, much higher budgets than in the industry, which boggles your mind. But it's true. If you look, some of these numbers are public for a bunch of these companies. Hundreds of employees, you know, at technological level where you can have the same results with less than 10 people.
Interesting. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I noticed that even just learning from other innovators or founders is that it's better with a smaller team, because you don't get bogged down by bureaucracy, and then you end up not having to deal with team issues and things like that. And there's lack of focus. I think that's the other thing. And so with you, in your case, in your team, you were focused on areas that no one else was paying attention to. And I think I recall in a conversation, it sounds like you are also a rock star in your industry. Not that you told me that, but
You're right.
You're known in the industry, right?
I agree with you.
Well, I mean, is it because of what your findings were? Like they found your research to be, I mean, you've had a level of success, right? With the inventions that you guys founded.
Yeah. So the important aspect here is, it's not that others didn't think to do the same thing that we are doing, but this was not their primary concern. So it doesn't make any sense to me your workforce has to be aligned with your technical readiness level. Okay. But I basically what happens is they're not aligned. I mean, a lot of companies are not aligned with the readiness level. They're aligned with it's a fundraising mechanism. So basically, if you show high expenditures, you can raise more money, which then you have to spend even more money to show the need for additional money. So it's not driven. It's not milestone driven. It's just driven. So that's an interesting game, which I also had identified, and it made no sense to me. So I think these are aspects that to me were sort of red flags. Before I started the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think only to me. I think a lot of people in the industry view it this way. Like, look at these guys. Their budget is like $500 million, and they don't even have a pilot line. It's like, this makes no sense. Like, what are you guys doing with that money?
But then your team with a small budget, with I like how David put it. You've been very prudent in the use of capital in developing the battery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an industry that's ready for the taking and ready for disruption. So would you say that you're in the lead of doing that? Pioneering that way?
Let me explain a little bit our readiness level, like where you are. What do you want to do at the end? We want us or someone else to manufacture these types of batteries that we develop and sell them. Basically, sell them to OEMs, to users who will take them and put them in devices like electronics or mobility devices like cars or drones or whatever, or stationary storage like for your house. Okay, but so where are we? So we're past the planning stages, of course. This is how we started, and based on the planning stages, we identified some materials that did not exist, and we invented this new material called this polymer that we have. This is the new material that enables us to get the high energy density. And if others want it, they would have to license it from us. So this is number one. And then we developed the cell components, which what you showed on the website. And then now we've been making cells for about a year, battery cells. But these are development cells. What we have started now is to make demonstration cells. And that's exactly what the name implies, which is you can ship it to an OEM and they can cycle it. They can see how much energy they get out of it. Then they can put it on a scale and they can see for themselves the energy density, right? So these are larger cells. So this is what we're doing now. We're taking the small cells that we've been making for a year and we're increasing the size of them. And we're maybe 3 to 6 months. This will happen next year. We're 3 to 6 months away of starting to ship these things out. So this will be the last effort with such a what you said, a small team, because so far, including this effort, is all handmade. Now, after this point comes the process of automation. So once you've demonstrated that, look, we offer this breakthrough, and you have tested it, okay? Now we have to raise money to start the automation process, where everything is done by machines, and this process is in stages. So you start with smaller pilots, and you work your way over a number of years to large manufacturing factories. So that's when the team grows. But and then it makes perfect sense to grow the team. But before you reach those stages, it's difficult for me to understand a large team. Large team will not have much to do, except collect salaries.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously by then, hopefully you've got significant funding. You don't have to worry too much about all the rest of it, the growth and everything. So are you now, I mean, is it pretty much close to commercializing? Like, is there a stage at some point that you have, like, what does that, because I know there's the innovation side, and then there's all this funding that you've already secured. So at what point, when does that happen? Like, what's the next step that you guys need to take?
So there's several ways for a company like this one can generate revenue. The simple one to understand is we manufacture cells and we sell them. Okay. That is also the most difficult, the slowest. This is also the slowest because we have to develop the entire know-how in-house. And usually the way it works, you are stellar, you're superstar in some areas, but you absolutely suck in other areas. So that's how it is with everyone. So then you start to hybridize and you say, okay, we can do this part, but we license the rest and others can pick it up from here and they're experts in those areas. And you do this technology transfer and there's agreements, royalties, licenses, etc. That's another way to do it. And an even more, a sooner way to generate revenue is to license not the full cell, but smaller technologies that go in the cell. So for example, we can license our polymer to others, and they can use it in their cells according to their designs, which are different than ours, with their materials, but they can use this material as a binder or other applications. So you can break it down like this. So you can think of it that and these things add various degrees to the value of the company. Now, the most value is added by the final product. That's the most value. And now it's a matter of how long it takes you to get there. If it takes too long, you have to start generating revenue with these other ways. But
Yeah.
so far, we've been moving very fast. So
yeah,
we're doing very well in that department.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously a good sign. You won the Shell Game Changer Grant Award. Some of these grants, they have specific criteria for what they're looking for, right? So you have to meet those criteria. And I know there's probably some private things that you can't disclose too much, so we're not going to obviously try to dig into the details of those things. But to me, it's a great sign.
I'm an open book.
But okay, on a broad and high level, you, with your expertise and your team, I would imagine that people approach you for consultation or solutions in the GovTech space. It sounds like even, military and then of course energy, everything tied to energy and sustainability. So there's so many areas.
Yeah, consultation is definitely not something that we're doing. We develop new technology for new batteries, and we work with these, with with the various branches of the DoD, but they want to contract us for technology output, not opinions.
Okay. Meaning they want actual results.
Yes, so their contracts, the results, leads. The way this works is it's split down. First, there's smaller contracts, and then they're bigger and bigger contracts, such that they can work you up from along the technology readiness level. So
Yeah.
if you want something that's game changing at any point in the history of any technology, it's not going to be available fast. So you've got to, but then you don't know what technology will be the game changing technology. So you got to hedge your bets with this type of smaller grants. So you got to work your way up. So we've been doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like, I mean, to me, I mean, it's more analogous to any early stage startup or business is you kind of experiment what's going to work and what's going to take off and what's most profitable. I mean, what is the market saying that they're willing to pay you for the things that you already have, right? And so one of the things I didn't ask you, but I know you've already didn't. What is the is it the wattage? Yes. So right now, industry standard, there is a certain. It's like it's hours per kilogram, right?
Watt hour per kilogram. Those are the units for energy density. Yes.
Yes, and then
So they're units of energy per units of weight. So how much energy per weight?
right, and you've found, I mean, your battery technology is outperforming.
Yeah, it's more
What's
than
out there?
more than twice higher. So
Yes.
this is the type of improvement that takes 35 to 50 years in the market. So the lithium ion technology was introduced in 1991 with an energy density of about 150 watt hour per kilogram. Now it's 2024, almost 35 years later, and the energy density is not at 300 yet. It's like 275 or 285 watt hour per kilogram. And we can do above 600.
But then also you're still targeting, you're aiming for higher.
We have a specific design, and we didn't change this target since the beginning. Basically, it's above 600.
Okay. Well, but I mean, what's exciting, like if people were to apply it to their real lives, like for example, I won't have to charge my phone every day kind of thing. Is if that's something
more energy. As a user, you have an unlimited desire for more and more energy. So everyone would like to use their electronic devices for longer, with more bells and whistles, which are power hungry. So more and more usage. So there's no limit to how high. But what I'm saying, from the technology perspective, the industry is very slow to meet that demand. So if you can provide, it rarely happens that in 1991 it happened. We want to provide another similar event. You can make a jump, right? It goes like this, gradual, but every several decades you have a jump, and we think we can do that. And then all of a sudden you are the king of the market, so you can charge premium, and you can electrify new markets, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's exciting. Even just the thought of, like, I would imagine for Tesla drivers, they won't have to stop every 2-3 hours, right? That if they do have something better and it can last longer, they can drive a little longer.
Yes, they can drive longer, or they can. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is they can keep similar range, but pay half the cost. So there's options in how this can be engineered into a product. Usually people think you double the energy density, you double the usage, so you drive twice as long. But another similar direction that you could go, if you were Tesla, you can provide a very cheap Tesla, which you cannot do now. You have a floor. You can go below it. Now that floor is now half that height if you have our technology, because now you need half the battery for the same range, which will cost you half the money, because the components are very similar. in like a raw material or similar.
That's exciting. Well, start getting your contacts from Tesla and Apple. So, I mean, right now, I mean, I guess because, we've reached, I usually aim for 30 minutes, but the conversation's so engaging and I'm really excited. And I don't want to keep you too long because I know your family is probably hoping that you can go back to celebrating the holidays. But yeah, so like what is coming up? Aren't you going to be presenting in the MAG conference? It's called the Magnetics Conference. It's the largest conference and it's coming to Tallahassee in February.
Yes, I understand that there's an important conference that I am doing, which I forgot what it is, but yes.
I can share it. But okay, while I pull that up, like what would you like to say as we conclude? Is there anything you would like to put in, kind of a call to action if there's anyone that you're looking for, certain industries and things like that? What's your next steps for this coming year that you are able to share?
Yeah, the big target for 25 is to release these demonstration cells that we can ship to our, pretty much all the OEMs that you have mentioned are watching us, and we update them every few months, and they want these demonstration cells. And we have been working to increase the size of the cells so that it meets this type of minimal requirements that they consider for demonstration cells. So this is on the important target for 2025. This is happening. This is coming.
Yeah. Exciting. Sure. They're busy. Sure. Yeah. No. So here we got some big speakers lined up. I know some big companies are represented. Of course, FSU, Danfoss. I believe you're helping with a panel.
Yes.
And so yeah, don't forget about it. I'm sure they want you to show up. February. It's February 8th. Like, look at these big companies as well. So it's usually at Orlando, but it's exciting that this year it's going to be at Tallahassee. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, so motor and drive systems, I guess, is one of the areas of focus for Tech Tracks and magnetics. It's surprising that
we can put together a nice panel. I can invite some people from the industry so we can duke it out on the future of battery.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I hope, and the organizers of the event, they're based out of New York, so I expect New York standard level event here in Tallahassee. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Bucur. Is there anything else that you'd like to conclude with?
Come check us out. We're at the Ignite facility. We're awesome facility that is new there that we moved into. Get in touch with us. We can show you what we do. And yeah, we're in Tallahassee. Yeah. We'll put it on. It's already on the map, but we'll make the dot bigger dot.
Yes, you and Danfoss and all those companies that are joining FSU Ignite. I guess they're calling it Ignite Tallahassee too. I mean, interchangeably. But yes, shout out to all the folks there. And yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Bucur. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. We'll see you on the other side then.